Lieutenant Olivia Martinez knew she was going to die. Her Raptor-class fighter spun through the darkness of space, systems failing after taking a direct hit from the Nixian warship. The sleek black vessel that had shot her down loomed ahead, its crystalline hull gleaming with an otherworldly purple energy that marked all Nixian technology. She had never seen one up close before. The Nixians rarely engaged in direct combat, preferring to strike from afar with their superior weapons. But this time was different. This time, they had come in force to the Omega Centauri colony, and Earth's defense fleet was crumbling. "Martinez, get out of there." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through her failing comms. "That's the Nixian flagship." Olivia's hands flew across her controls, trying to restore power to her engines. "Negative, Captain. I can still fight." The truth was, she couldn't. Her weapons were dead, life support was failing, and the only systems still functioning were basic maneuvering thrusters. But Olivia Martinez didn't know how to give up. It wasn't in her DNA. The massive Nixian ship's tractor beam caught her fighter, drawing her inexorably toward its hangar bay. Olivia's heart raced as she watched the crystalline doors slide open. No human had ever seen the inside of a Nixian vessel and lived to tell about it. As her fighter settled onto the hangar floor, Olivia grabbed her sidearm. She wouldn't go down without a fight. The cockpit hissed open, and she found herself surrounded by tall, armored figures. The Nixians stood at least 7 feet tall, their armor a shifting pattern of blacks and purples that seemed to absorb light. "Step out of the vessel, human," a deep voice commanded in perfect English. Olivia emerged slowly, weapon raised. "Not a chance, alien." The circle of Nixian warriors parted, and an even taller figure stepped forward. Unlike the others, his armor was adorned with intricate patterns that pulsed with energy. A general, she realized. The Nixian removed his helmet, revealing a face that was both alien and startlingly beautiful. His skin was pale violet, marked with luminescent patterns that shifted like starlight. Sharp, angular features framed eyes that glowed with an inner fire. "I am General Theron," he said, his voice resonating with authority. "And you, Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, have earned my attention." Olivia's finger tightened on the trigger. "How do you know my name?" Theron's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "We've been watching you. Your tactical abilities are unprecedented for your species. The way you destroyed 3 of our best ships before we could disable you, impressive." "Glad you enjoyed the show," Olivia spat. "Now either kill me or let me go." "Neither." Theron stepped closer, seemingly unconcerned by her weapon. "You're far too valuable for that." Before Olivia could react, one of the warriors behind her fired some kind of energy pulse. Her muscles seized, and darkness crept into her vision. The last thing she saw was Theron catching her as she fell, his touch sending an unexpected surge of warmth through her body. When Olivia awoke, she found herself in a chamber unlike anything she'd ever seen. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the ship's hull, but here they were transparent, offering a breathtaking view of space. She was lying on some kind of examination table, but there were no restraints. "Our medical scans are complete," Theron's voice came from behind her. "You're in perfect health, despite your reckless battle tactics." Olivia sat up slowly, her head spinning. "Why am I here? Why didn't you kill me like all the others?" Theron approached, his armor now replaced by a form-fitting uniform that emphasized his alien physique. "Because you're different. When I touched you earlier, something impossible happened." "What are you talking about?" "My species is genetically modified to prevent physical contact with other races," Theron explained. "The touch of any other being causes us extreme pain, a safeguard engineered by our ancestors to maintain genetic purity. Yet when I caught you..." He extended his hand toward her face, stopping just short of contact. "I felt no pain. Only warmth." Olivia's breath caught in her throat. That's impossible. Indeed. Theron's eyes searched her face. You're a mystery, Lieutenant Martinez. One I intend to solve. I'm not your lab rat, she growled, sliding off the table. No, Theron agreed. You're much more important than that. You might be the key to changing everything, if you're willing to help me understand why you're different. Olivia looked at him skeptically. And if I refuse? Then you'll remain my prisoner, and we'll find answers another way. His expression softened slightly. But I'd prefer your willing cooperation. Help me understand this connection between us, and perhaps we can end this war before more lives are lost. Olivia knew she should refuse. This alien had killed countless humans, had just destroyed half her fleet. But something in his eyes, something in the way he looked at her, made her hesitate. And that strange warmth she'd felt when he touched her. Fine, she said finally. But I have conditions. Theron's expression remained neutral, but she could have sworn she saw relief flash across his features. Name them. I want to contact my people, let them know I'm alive. And I want answers of my own, about your species, this ship, everything. Agreed, Theron said. But you should know, by bringing you aboard this ship, I've already broken numerous protocols. There are those among my people who would kill us both if they discovered what happened when we touched. Olivia met his gaze steadily. Then I guess we'll have to watch each other's backs. For the first time, Theron smiled fully, and Olivia felt that strange warmth again, even without physical contact. Indeed we will, Lieutenant Martinez. Indeed we will. The Nixian flagship's medical bay hummed with an otherworldly resonance as Olivia endured yet another series of scans. It had been 3 days since her capture, and she was starting to feel more like a science experiment than a prisoner of war. The crystalline walls pulsed with soft light, casting ethereal patterns across the sophisticated equipment surrounding her. Your genetic structure is fascinating, said Dr. Venna, the ship's chief medical officer. Unlike Theron, she maintained a careful distance from Olivia, her silver eyes sharp with both curiosity and suspicion. There are sequences here that shouldn't exist in human DNA. Olivia resisted the urge to roll her eyes. Maybe your data on humans is wrong. Our data is never wrong, Venna replied coldly. She turned to General Theron, who stood watching from the corner. Sir, I must insist we proceed with more invasive testing. This anomaly dash. No. Theron's voice left no room for argument. Continue with non-invasive procedures only. Venna's luminescent markings flashed with barely contained frustration. General, the High Command will demand answers. A human who can touch our kind without triggering the pain response. It defies everything we know about our genetic modifications. Then perhaps it's time to question what we know, Theron said quietly. Before Venna could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Theron's hand instinctively went to his weapon. Report. A holographic display materialized, showing a young Nixian officer. General, we've detected multiple human vessels entering the system. They're on an intercept course. Olivia's heart leaped. A rescue mission? She hadn't been able to send any message to Earth forces, but perhaps they had tracked the flagship's position. Battle stations, Theron commanded. He turned to Olivia, his expression unreadable. You'll remain here under guard. Like hell I will, Olivia stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Those are my people out there. You can't expect me to just sit here while dash. She stopped short as her hand accidentally brushed against Theron's arm. That now familiar warmth surged between them, but this time she saw something else, a flash of emotions that weren't her own. Concern, confusion, and something deeper, something that made her breath catch. Theron stepped back, his markings pulsing rapidly. Dr. Venna, continue your work. Lieutenant Martinez is not to leave this room. He strode out before Olivia could protest further. Venna watched the interaction with keen interest. Fascinating. Your proximity appears to trigger a physiological response in him. Perhaps if we dash. Don't even think about it, Olivia warned. She moved to the crystalline window, watching as space itself seemed to ripple with the activation of Nixian weapon systems. Just tell me what's happening out there. The battle unfolded before her eyes, but it was unlike anything she'd seen before. The human ships were using new tactics, ones she didn't recognize. They moved in patterns that seemed specifically designed to counter Nixian technology. Something's wrong, she muttered. Those aren't standard Earth defense formations. Venna moved to join her, maintaining her careful distance. Your observation skills are impressive, for a human. You're right, their attack pattern is unusual. The ship shuddered as it took a direct hit. Olivia steadied herself against the window, her military training kicking in as she analyzed the situation. Those aren't rescue ships, she realized with growing horror. They're trying to destroy this vessel, with me on it. Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered, and Olivia heard the distinctive sound of hull breach warnings. She made a split-second decision. I need to get to the bridge, she told Venna. Now. The general ordered dash. Your general is walking into a trap, Olivia cut her off. Those ships are using classified tactical data they could only have gotten from someone high up in Earth's command structure. This isn't a rescue mission, it's an assassination attempt. Venna's markings pulsed rapidly as she processed this information. After what felt like an eternity, she touched a panel on the wall. The door slid open. If you're wrong about this, Venna said, we'll both face execution for treason. Olivia ran through the corridors of the alien ship, following Venna's directions to the bridge. Every impact made the crystalline walls shudder, and she could hear the mounting chaos in the Nixian crew's communications. She burst onto the bridge just as Theron was issuing attack orders. He turned, surprise evident in his glowing eyes. Lieutenant, I ordered dash. It's a trap, she interrupted, pushing past startled officers to reach him. They're using my tactical algorithms, but they've been modified. These aren't regular Earth forces, they're rebels, probably working with whoever on your side wants to keep our species at war. Theron studied her face intently. You're certain? Test it, she challenged. Let me take control of your defensive systems. I can prove it. The bridge fell silent. What she was asking was unprecedented, a human controlling a Nixian warship's weapons. Theron looked at his crew, then back at Olivia. Without a word, he stepped aside, giving her access to the tactical station. Olivia's fingers flew across the alien controls, which responded to her touch as if they'd been designed for her. They're using a variation of the Theta maneuver, my signature move. But they've added a fatal flaw that only someone who created the original would notice. She input a series of commands, and the ship's weapons reconfigured. There, fire now. Theron gave the order. The Nixian flagship's weapons unleashed a precise burst of energy that caught the attacking ships in a crossfire they couldn't have anticipated. Within moments, the tide of battle had turned. As the enemy ships retreated in disarray, Olivia felt Theron's presence behind her. It seems, he said softly, we have a common enemy. She turned to face him, acutely aware of how close they were standing. Someone wanted this confrontation. Someone on both sides is orchestrating these attacks. The question is why? Theron's markings pulsed with an intensity she hadn't seen before. And what does it have to do with your ability to touch me? Olivia looked at her hand, then at him. There's only one way to find out. Without warning, she reached out and took his hand. The bridge crew gasped, expecting their general to collapse in agony. Instead, that now familiar warmth flooded between them, stronger than ever. And this time, neither of them pulled away. In the dim light of Theron's private quarters, Olivia studied the ancient text displayed on the holographic screen. The symbols twisted and shifted, but thanks to the Nixian translation matrix, she could understand their meaning. Her fingers traced the air above the projection, following lines of code that seemed to predate both human and Nixian civilizations. "This can't be right," she muttered, glancing at Theron who stood by the viewport, his tall frame silhouetted against the stars. "According to these records, both our species were engineered by the same race, the predecessors." "The records are authentic," Theron said, his deep voice resonating through the room. "They were recovered from a temple complex on the Outer Rim, but the High Command classified them immediately." He turned to face her, his markings casting a soft glow. "That's why Supreme Commander Raxus wants me eliminated. I've known about this truth for months." Olivia stood, processing this revelation. "And you think this is why I can touch you? Some kind of shared genetic heritage?" "Perhaps." Theron moved closer, and Olivia felt that familiar pull between them strengthen. "But there's more. The predecessors didn't just create us, they designed us to be compatible. The pain response my people experience with other species, it's not natural. It was added later, by our own scientists." A chime interrupted them. Dr. Vena's voice came through the communication system. "General, you need to see this. The genetic analysis is complete." Minutes later, they stood in the medical bay, staring at a complex display of intertwined DNA strands. Vena's markings pulsed with excitement as she explained. "Lieutenant Martinez carries a unique genetic marker, one that perfectly complements the Nixian genetic structure. It's as if her DNA holds the key to unlocking the artificial barriers in our genetic code." "How is that possible?" Olivia asked. "I'm just a pilot." "No," Theron said softly. "You're more than that. Your tactical abilities, your intuitive understanding of our technology, none of it was coincidence." He turned to Vena. "Show her." The doctor hesitated, then activated another display. "We found this in your genetic profile. It's a signature, embedded at the molecular level." The image zoomed in, revealing a pattern that matched the ancient symbols they'd been studying. Olivia felt the room spin. "I was engineered? But why? My parents were both normal humans." "The predecessors played a long game," Theron said. "They must have embedded these sequences into both our species' genetic lines, waiting for the right combination to emerge." His markings flashed with sudden urgency. "That's why the attacks are intensifying. Someone discovered what you are, what we could mean together." Before Olivia could respond, the ship's alert system blared. Commander Raxus's voice filled the room. "General Theron, by order of the High Command, you are hereby relieved of duty. Surrender the human female immediately." Theron's expression hardened. "It seems we've run out of time." He turned to Vena. "Doctor, I need your answer now. Are you with us?" The medical officer's markings pulsed rapidly as she made her decision. "The evidence is irrefutable. Our entire society is built on a lie. I'll help you." "Good." Theron moved to a wall panel, revealing a hidden weapons cache. "Because we're about to commit treason." Olivia grabbed one of the Nixian energy rifles, familiar with its design from her earlier study of their weapons. "We need to reach the auxiliary control center. From there, I can access the ship's systems without being locked out." "First," Theron said, "we need to transmit the truth to both our peoples." He retrieved a data crystal from his uniform. "Everything we've discovered, the genetic evidence, the ancient records, all of it." The door to the medical bay hissed, indicating someone was trying to override the lock. Olivia moved closer to Theron, their shoulders touching. That connection between them surged, and suddenly she could sense his thoughts, his emotions, as clearly as her own. "The bond," Venna breathed, watching them. "It's evolving." Olivia met Theron's gaze, understanding flowing between them without words. This was what their enemies feared, not just the truth about their shared origins, but the potential of what humans and Nixians could become together. "Whatever happens," Theron said softly, his hand finding hers, "know that meeting you has changed everything I thought I knew about destiny." Olivia squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of their connection pulse stronger. "Save the romance for after we save both our species, General." The door's locks began to fail. Theron's markings glowed with fierce determination. "Ready?" Olivia checked her weapon, a smile playing at her lips. "Born ready. Let's show them what happens when you try to keep humanity and Nixians apart." The door burst open, and chaos erupted. But as they fought side by side, moving in perfect synchronization, Olivia felt a certainty she'd never known before. The warmth of their bond flowed between them, growing stronger with each passing moment. They weren't just fighting for their lives or even for truth, they were fighting for a future where the artificial barriers between their species could finally fall. A future that had been planned for longer than either of their civilizations had existed. And as she watched Theron move with lethal grace, his movements perfectly complementing hers, she realized something else: she was falling in love with the enemy she'd been born to save. Through their strengthening bond, she felt his response to that thought, a surge of emotion that mirrored her own. They had always been meant to find each other, to bridge the gap between their peoples. Now they just had to survive long enough to make that future possible. "The auxiliary control center is 3 levels down," Theron said as they cleared the corridor. "Once there, we can transmit the data and take control of the ship's systems." "And then?" Olivia asked, though she could feel his answer through their connection before he spoke. "And then," he said, his markings pulsing with intensity, "we change everything." The auxiliary control center of the Nixian flagship erupted in chaos as Olivia's fingers flew across the crystalline control panels. Beside her, Theron and Venna held off waves of security forces, their weapons filling the corridor with pulses of purple energy. Through their strengthening bond, Olivia could feel Theron's unwavering focus, his absolute trust in her abilities. "The encryption is unlike anything I've seen," she said, her mind racing to understand the patterns before her. "It's not Nixian, it's predecessor code. You can break it?" Theron asked, his markings pulsing with battle intensity as he took down another attacker. Olivia's hands moved faster, guided by instincts she didn't fully understand. "I'm not breaking it. I'm remembering it." The realization hit her like a physical force. "The genetic markers in my DNA, they're not just compatibility codes. They're access keys." Through their connection, she felt Theron's shock mirror her own. The predecessors hadn't just engineered them to be compatible, they'd hidden the keys to their entire technological legacy within their genetic code, waiting for the right pair to unlock it. The control panels suddenly blazed with light, responding to her touch in ways they never had before. Ancient symbols cascaded across the screens, and Olivia understood them all. "I have control of the ship's communication systems," she announced. "Broadcasting now." Throughout the vessel, holographic displays materialized, showing the genetic evidence they'd discovered. But it wasn't just data, the predecessor coding in Olivia's DNA had unlocked something more. Historical records, technical schematics, and most importantly, the truth about why their species had been created. "By the stars," Venna breathed, watching as the information spread. The pain response, it wasn't just about genetic purity. It was a safeguard, preventing us from accessing our full potential until we found you. A massive impact rocked the ship. Commander Raxus's voice boomed through the communication systems. "This ends now, traitors. The human must not be allowed to complete the upload." Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, Venna reported, checking the tactical display. "Earth vessels, but they're not attacking. They're protecting us? Olivia smiled. The broadcast reached Earth. They've seen the truth. Through their bond, Theron sent her a wave of pride and something deeper, love, raw and powerful. But there was no time to dwell on it. The ship shuddered again as Raxus's forces pressed their attack. Olivia, Theron said urgently, the final encryption sequence. You need to dash. Already on it. Her fingers danced across the controls, guided by knowledge that felt as old as time itself. But there's something else. Something bigger than just our two species. The screens shifted, revealing a star map unlike anything they'd seen before. Scattered across the galaxy were dozens of points of light, other engineered species, all part of the predecessor's grand design. We weren't meant to fight each other, Olivia said, understanding flooding through her. We were meant to find each other, to unlock this knowledge together, and then find the others, Theron finished, moving to her side. Unite them. Continue what the predecessors began. Another blast rocked the ship. Through the viewport, they could see Raxus's forces engaging both Earth and Nixian vessels, those who had seen the truth and chosen to stand with them. The final sequence is locked to both our genetic codes, Olivia said, looking up at Theron. We have to do it together. Without hesitation, Theron placed his hand over hers on the control panel. Their bond exploded with power, their combined genetic markers triggering something deep within the ship's systems. The crystalline walls pulsed with energy as ancient machinery, dormant for millennia, hummed to life. By the ancestors, Venna gasped. The ship, it's transforming. The entire vessel shimmered as predecessor technology merged with Nixian systems. Weapons more powerful than anything either species had invented emerged from hidden compartments. Shields of pure energy enveloped the hull. Through their enhanced bond, Olivia and Theron moved as one, their joined consciousness interfacing directly with the ship's systems. They felt every bulkhead, every weapons array, every pulse of energy flowing through the transformed vessel. Raxus's ships are moving to surround us, Venna reported. Olivia felt Theron's tactical brilliance merge with her own as they assessed their options. Let them come, she said, their voices almost synchronized. It's time to show them what humanity and Nixians can do together. The ship responded to their combined will, moving with impossible grace for something its size. The new weapon systems targeted Raxus's fleet with surgical precision, disabling rather than destroying. Commander Raxus, Theron's voice boomed across all channels, look at your sensors. Look at what we've unlocked. This is what the predecessors intended, not war, not separation, but synthesis. Stand down, or witness the full power of our combined potential. For a moment, space held its breath. Then, one by one, the attacking ships powered down their weapons. On the tactical display, more vessels appeared, both human and Nixian, drawn by the broadcast, by the undeniable truth of their shared destiny. Through their bond, Olivia felt Theron's relief and determination. There would be resistance, those who clung to the old ways, the artificial barriers that had kept their species apart. But they had done it. They had taken the first step toward the future the predecessors had designed them for. What now? Venna asked, looking at the star map with its dozens of waiting discoveries. Olivia turned to Theron, their hands still joined, their bond humming with shared purpose. Now, she said, feeling his agreement through their connection, we find the others. Together. The transformed ship hung in space, a testament to what two species could achieve, and they overcame their artificial divisions. And in the auxiliary control center, a human and a Nixian stood together, their touch defying generations of engineered barriers, their love proving that some bonds transcended even the most carefully designed limitations. The revolution had begun, not with weapons or wars, but with a touch that was never meant to be possible, and a love that would change the galaxy forever. 3 months after the revelation that changed two civilizations, the transformed Nixian flagship hovered above Earth. Its crystalline hull, now infused with predecessor technology, cast prismatic patterns across the planet's atmosphere. In the ship's newly created diplomatic chamber, Olivia stood beside Theron, watching as human and Nixian leaders signed the historic Unity Accord. Their bond hummed with shared satisfaction as Supreme Commander Raxus, now stripped of his military authority but granted a place on the new Joint Council, added his signature to the document. The former commander had eventually accepted the truth, though it had taken the overwhelming evidence of the predecessor technology's power to convince him. Representatives of Earth and Nixia, Theron addressed the gathered assembly, his markings pulsing with dignified authority. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Our peoples were created for a greater purpose, to find each other, to unlock the legacy left for us, and to unite the other children of the predecessors across the galaxy. Olivia stepped forward, her hand naturally finding Theron's. The assembled leaders had grown used to their public displays of affection, though some still watched in wonder as their touch generated a subtle glow where their skin met. The star map we uncovered shows 27 other engineered species, she continued. Each with their own piece of the predecessor legacy locked within their genetic code. Together, we'll find them, help them overcome their own artificial barriers, and rebuild the network of civilizations our creators envisioned. Through their bond, she felt Theron's pride and love wash over her. Their connection had only grown stronger over the past months, revealing new depths and abilities neither species had thought possible. Already, other human-Nixian pairs had been discovered who shared their compatibility, though none quite as powerful as the first. After the ceremony, they retreated to their private quarters aboard the ship, now named Unity by mutual agreement of both governments. The room combined the best of both their cultures. Earth plants thrived in crystalline containers, their growth enhanced by Nixian biotechnology, while the viewport showed both standard space and the quantum dimensions that Nixian sensors could detect. "You're thinking about tomorrow's mission," Theron said, his tall frame settling beside her on their customized lounger. Olivia smiled, still amazed at how naturally their bond let them read each other. "The signals from the Centauri sector are strong. If we're right, another engineered species is ready to be contacted. Are you nervous?" His markings pulsed with gentle concern. "A little," she admitted. "We don't know what kind of barriers the predecessors built into them, what we might have to overcome to help them see the truth." Theron's hand cupped her cheek, sending warmth through their connection. "Whatever challenges await us, we'll face them together. That's what the predecessors intended, not just for us, but for all their children." Olivia leaned into his touch, remembering how impossible such contact had seemed just months ago. "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were going to kill me." "When I first met you," he countered, amusement coloring their bond, "I thought you were going to shoot me. We've come a long way. And we have further still to go." Theron's expression grew serious. "The Genetic Council confirmed something today. About our compatibility." Olivia sat up straighter, sensing the importance of his news through their connection. "What is it?" "Any children we have." He paused, his markings pulsing with joy he couldn't quite contain, "they'll be born with the ability to connect with both species. Natural bridges between our peoples." Olivia's heart soared at the implications. "You mean? We can have a family," he confirmed. "One that embodies everything the predecessors hoped for when they created us." She pulled him into a kiss, their bond singing with shared happiness. When they finally parted, both of their bodies were glowing faintly, another unexpected side effect of their deepening connection. A chime from the ship's communication system interrupted their moment. "General, Lieutenant," Dr. Vena's voice came through, "we're receiving new data from the Centauri sector. You'll want to see this." They made their way to the bridge, where Vena had already compiled the findings. The holographic display showed energy signatures unlike anything they'd seen before. "The third species," Vena explained, her markings pulsing with excitement. "They appear to be advanced energy beings, capable of existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. No wonder the predecessors created the pain response in Nixians and kept humans technologically limited, Olivia mused. They needed us to find each other first, to learn to overcome our differences, before we could help others achieve the same. Theron studied the data, his tactical mind analyzing possibilities. They'll have their own barriers to overcome, their own fears to face. But now we can show them it's possible. We're living proof. Olivia looked around the bridge, where human and Nixian crew members worked seamlessly together, their differences becoming strengths rather than obstacles. Through their bond, she shared with Theron a vision of the future, a galaxy united not by conquest or domination, but by understanding and love. Set course for the Centauri sector, she commanded, feeling Theron's agreement through their connection. Maximum speed. As Unity jumped to faster-than-light travel, its predecessor systems humming with power, Olivia and Theron stood together at the helm. Their joined hands glowed with the promise of what was possible when artificial barriers fell away, when fear gave way to understanding, and when love proved stronger than any genetic programming. They were no longer just a human and a Nixian. They were the beginning of something greater, the first step toward fulfilling the predecessor's grand design. And as they sped toward their next adventure, their bond resonating with shared purpose and love, both knew that this was only the beginning of their story. The stars streaked past, each one holding the possibility of another species waiting to be found, another piece of the cosmic puzzle waiting to be solved. And together, they would find them all, proving that the greatest power in the universe wasn't technology or genetic engineering, but the simple ability to reach across the divide and take someone's hand.